Welcome to Lesson 5 in our Summer Mindfulness Series. This one's titled Working with What You Got. And we're really going to try to build on what we've learned and explore what makes it so hard to sustain and sometimes even just start a kind of regular daily practice. So if you've been following along, you'll notice we've developed some what I think are really key, core, foundational practices, learning to focus on our breath, watching our thoughts, attending to our bodies, and opening our hearts in loving kindness meditations. I want to note just two different ways that we've explored being with our breath. We've explored being focused on it as a focal point, so really concentrating on the breath. And then we've also used it kind of as an anchor where we more lightly pay attention to it as we watch our thoughts go by. And you can do this with your thoughts. You can also do it with sounds, with visual sensation, but just a way to let your experience unfold as it is in the moment. But if you've been starting this, you've probably wrestled with how do you actually go about creating a regular, sustained practice. This can be really difficult. I hear from people a lot of times, oh, it's so hard, I don't have any time. And when you think about it, we're asking about 10 minutes a day, and most of us have that time. So it really becomes a question of what is it that makes us pull back from wanting to do this? Why do we, maybe when we think about doing, we get really overwhelmed or we feel really heavy in our bodies, and the sheer thought of building and sustaining this practice doesn't seem enticing. It seems difficult and hard, and yet we still feel interested in it. So I want to help us try to work through this complexity, and I want to do this by returning again to what I talked about in the very first lesson about posture and why posture matters. So here's a great quote from Suzuki Roshi, a Zen author. To take this posture itself is the purpose of our practice, he says. And by this posture, he doesn't just mean, if you're able to fold yourself into full lotus or half lotus or whatever it is, but that straight back posture is the very point of practice. This, when we kind of first encounter it, seems really counterintuitive, confusing, perplexing. And so I want to try to unpack a little bit by just looking at what this posture actually is. So here's another quote. Surrender the entire weight of the body to gravity, and yet remain as tall as you possibly can be. And this comes from Will Johnson's book on the posture of meditation. And if you know what that posture is with the straight back, it means that you're able to relax, to let go, to drop your resistance, and yet still find this natural support, this strength, this ability of your spine to hold your weight and allow you to be fully in the present moment. And that is when they say the point of the practice is allowing ourselves to be fully present to our experience, to drop all of our resistance, all of the tension, all the ways that we pull back, and to let ourselves just experience the moment as it is. We've talked about this some as befriending ourselves, of that openness, that curiosity in our full experience, no matter what it is. And this brings to why we resist practicing. Because a lot of times our sense of our inner worlds, a sense of our outer world, we experience it as dangerous, as unsatisfying. The thought of being fully present to my own reality, my own experience, without any filters, without any guarding, seems terrifying sometimes. There's so much heartbreak, so much self-criticism, maybe so much shame, maybe so much untouched anger there. We feel scared of the external world, everything that's happening around. And the last thing we want to do is kind of slow down and be with ourselves, to be fully present in that moment. And so we contract away, like our muscles literally tense up, pulling us back, We try to live maybe at a distance, often disembodied, pulling back from our physical experience as a way to try to get some sort of control, some sort of power over, or at least, if we can't control it, we can ignore it and push it away. But either way, pulling back from our moment to moment, everyday experience. But when we sit in the posture, when we assume that straight back posture, dropping all of the resistance, we find ourselves just as we are in the moment, not doing anything, not needing to do anything, not needing to get control, not needing to make it better, not needing to protect ourselves, not needing to justify whatever it is we're doing. We're just breathing. And this you can even think of as a dedication to some uselessness. So often we're trying to justify our experience, justify our lives. And when we just sit and breathe, it feels pointless. And that is kind of the reality, is experiencing our sheer bare existence, just breathing, as a reminder of our infinite value, that our lives are precious in all of the mess that they are, and all of the hardship that we face. As I tell my kids, each one of us is God's art. And when we sit in that posture, when we enter into our present moment, unguarded, with our open hearts, we remind ourselves physically in that moment that just breathing at this point is enough. That we're okay with everything going on and all the complexity and mess of our lives. We can be aligned, held by gravity, feeling ourselves supported by the earth, sitting tall, and remembering that that's nothing special. That's just our ordinary embodied existence. And it's also this great, wonderful gift where we can have a moment to ourselves to remember that we can sit, we can let go, we can drop our resistance, and that we can sit tall in all of the chaos and all of the heartbreak and all of the uncertainty in our daily, ordinary experience. And we do this, we set aside these 10 minutes because we want to find that spaciousness, that relaxed, dropped tension, openness to experience in our daily lives, in our ordinary experience. And it's really hard to find that as we go about our extremely busy days. And so we take those 10 minutes, pull back from some of those ordinary distractions, and try to connect with it in that practice time. But the point of the practice isn't to carve out this separate realm, but to experience that sense of relaxed openness in the middle of the chaos of our ordinary daily life. So this leads to another on-the-spot, in-the-moment kind of practice, which is just noticing your body. When I get working really hard, I can end up just breathing shallowly, like as if I somehow constrict my breathing that will help me get everything done. It's a stress reflex, and so I can take a moment and be mindful. How am I breathing right now? What is happening in my body at this moment? Let me follow my breath for 1 minute. You can also take a break and notice your posture. Have you slumped over, feeling the weight? Kind of realign yourself, allow yourself to feel in that moment. You can also do like a 30-second body scan. Just notice, is there any tension anywhere? Any tension that I could kind of remind, it's okay. You can relax, drop it in this moment. Another way to notice the body is just to put your attention like in your hands or your feet, place with a lot of sensations. And you can do that for a minute. Again, in the middle of your ordinary daily chaos, taking a little break, just experiencing that present moment, knowing that there is an earth that is holding you up, that you can hold your spine erect, hold your head tall, and your heart open as everything is happening in your life. And so for your daily meditation 10-minute practice this week, my encouragement is to work with what you've got. That was the original title, right? Work with what you got. We have a number of practices, whether it's counting your breaths or loving kindness meditation, watching thoughts. Work with those, use those, but also explore what resistance you have to a daily practice. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. If you're telling yourself, oh, you're too busy, ask yourself some harder questions, right? Because you know that if there was something else happening, you could find the time. And so explore what's going on, what it is that might be pulling you to practice and also making you nervous about it. And give yourself that sense of loving kindness and compassion in it. We're not trying to fix all of ourselves to make ourselves the best that we can be. It's a matter of relaxing in to our ordinary, everyday existence with a bit more spaciousness, a bit more confidence that we can keep our hearts open, keep our heads high, even as we face some extremely difficult times in our personal lives and in the world around us. So continue practicing 10 minutes a day, have that courage to be honest, and pay attention to your body as you practice. Thanks.